So what if I told you that OnePlus finally, sort of, is returning to its roots? Notice I said sort of. Because yes, OnePlus just announced the global variant of the OnePlus 10 Pro, and it brings a particular pleasant surprise, at least that I wasn't expecting. New leaks show us the retail box of the Pixel 6a, which reveals a couple of things, and Facebook and Apple were tricked into giving away personal information to some hackers. I know, that was kind of weird. Anyways, I'm Jaime Rivera, and if you thought that Ocean's 11 only happens in the movies, it's clear that hackers are getting smarter. Even that smart. This is Pocketnow Daily. The official news today will be coming later, but let's call the semi-official. I mean, we have a new report from TSMC. Yeah, I know, TSMC. I mean, it's weird. But anyways, their chairman is claiming that demand for smartphones, PCs, and other consumer electronics will decrease once again due to the pandemic and the issues caused by conflicts in Europe. He also mentions that everyone in the industry is currently worried about the rising cost across the overall supply chain, as the semiconductor industry has already experienced this cost increase. Liu is also warning us about the changes in pricing for components and materials, as everything just keeps getting more expensive, and yes, these costs could eventually be passed to the consumer if not already, meaning demand for devices could also be affected by the higher price tags. As for TSMC, they will be reorganizing and prioritizing their orders to supply their customers who can sustain a healthy demand despite the slowdown in these areas. A clear example is definitely Apple, not just because of all the money that they've paid up front, but also because they benefit because they use the same chip across so many phones. So if they decide to manufacture less of one and, trespass this manufacturing to the other, it works. It's just what's happening with the iPhone SE. Sticking to official news, let's talk about Apple, Meta, and leaking data. I know. I mean, we have a new report from Bloomberg claiming that both Meta and Apple allegedly gave away sensitive information to hackers who were pretending to be law enforcement officials. But it gets better. This is Mission Impossible kind of stuff. Apparently, these hackers first targeted the emails of the law enforcement officials, and once they got access to their emails and IDs, they then submitted requests to these big tech companies in order to get sensitive information. These requests usually go through some process of verification, which they probably did, or I guess something went wrong, which I doubt. But according to a report from Krebs, Apple received 1,162 emergency data requests, out of which they answered 93% of them. And then Facebook, on the other hand, received 21,500 requests, out of which they answered 77%. Now, the data that was passed to the hackers reportedly includes certain user addresses, phone numbers, and IP addresses, according to the Bloomberg report. Apparently, this happened halfway through last year, and the masterminds behind this might be lapses, who have been getting a ton of huge companies recently. Both Apple and Meta have issued statements, but due to the origin of the issues, both of them were really just fulfilling legal requests. Let us know what you guys think about this whole thing in the comments. I mean, George Clooney would be proud. Now, moving on to some new Pixel leaks, and I know it's been a while, but we get new updates on the Pixel 6a. We've already seen renders, and we have heard some of the leak specifications, but now we have an image of the Pixel 6a retail box. Obviously, as expected, this doesn't reveal much other than to confirm that it'll bring the similar design to the regular Pixel 6, and this box does look identical to the ones we got with the 6 series. On the images, we can also see that this is a completely black variant, which looks kind of different to the stormy black on the larger Pixel 6. The main differences between these devices would be the sizes and the build materials. Of course, they probably will be using polycarbonate on this one, though we'll see, because the Pixel 5a was, I don't know what, it was aluminum with a sort of blend. But anyway, some benchmarks that leaked recently also confirmed that the 6a will be powered by the Tensor chip, 6 gigs of RAM, and the same camera we got all the way back to, what was it, Pixel 3a or Pixel 3? But anyways, the problem is the launch date, with several leaks mentioning that it's coming to Google I/O, but that it could be delayed. Honestly, I'm just waiting for the hands-on video, for the product just to show up in my front doorstep. And guys, I'll take care of it. And finally, for the hottest news today, and also the official ones, let's talk about OnePlus as yes, the company had their launch for the 10 Pro earlier today, and they gave us details on this phone for the rest of the world. Some things we already knew, but others were a pleasant surprise. I mean, just to get the specifications out of the way, in the international variant, you get a 6.7-inch Quad HD Plus display with an LTPO 2.0 panel. It's powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which is also equipped with a new 5-layer 3D passive cooling system. Sadly, OnePlus is only giving us one variant in the US that brings 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of UFS 3.1 storage. Seems the other markets like the UK are actually getting the 12256 for more money. It also brings a 5000 mAh power pack that supports 80-watt fast charging, but hold it right there, that's also outside the US. Here we're getting the 65-watt SuperVOOC charging that you saw in our unboxing on Instagram Reels. I know. Also, only the T-Mobile variant brings the official IP rating, though I'm sure they're all built the same. And yes, it runs on OxygenOS 12.1, which is based on Android 12. And as for the cameras, you get a 48-megapixel main sensor, 50-megapixel ultra-wide, and an 150-degree field of view, and then an 8-megapixel telephoto. Yes, these cameras are tuned by Hasselblad, and they even give you a pro mode that lets you capture 12-bit RAW photos. But honestly, the hottest thing here is the price. The phone costs $899, and before you tell me that that isn't cheap, the 9 Pro costs $969, and only in certain markets, as in the United States, the only variant that we received was the higher tier storage variant, so it would cost $1,100. So for today's question, let us know. I mean, what do you think about the OnePlus 10 Pro in its international launch? Because, listen, I've had it since Monday, and you know that I do not rush reviews. So far, the camera is actually miles better than the 9 Pro in certain things, not everything. But seriously, I feel that $899 is a more reasonable price. Yes, it's really hard to compete against other phones in the market, but still, I feel that it's more realistic than before when they were just trying to compete with the big kids and not necessarily providing that execution in the product. So stay tuned for our review. I'm thinking that $899 is logical, and I just wish that they had a OnePlus 10 that would cost $599 and actually provide that same level of capacity. But anyways, that's just me. Leave us a comment down below. We'd love to know your opinion. Friends, again, if you want to get the news earlier, follow us on Pocketnow.com and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. You can also follow us on social medias. Our extended coverage happens on Instagram, and follow me on my personal handles to see me be shocked at what hackers can do today. Guys, email spam is getting pretty bad. Beware. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.